But first I would like to introduce you to my grandfather. He's not a big farmer. He grows some fruits like lemons, bananas, and papaya. And in my childhood, I remember him always saying that the production was always better years before. But he never explained why he believed that. And the fact is that the productivity has increased in different parts of the world. And this is due to the adoption of new techniques, like, for example, green revolution that in the 70s that brings new chemicals to help control of pests, weeds, and disease. In the 80s, new no-till farming showed us how important it is to protect soil. In the 90s, biotechnology introduced new cultivars with higher yields and resistance for pests and disease. And more recently, precision agriculture brought to attention the need to understand the importance of applying fertilizers and other inputs in different manners in a same plot. And one of the most important tools that we have to increase productivity in agriculture is water. Irrigation is responsible for 40% of our total agricultural production. But only 20% of our total cultivated land is irrigated. Irrigation is also related to decrease on the land need for food production per person, as you can see on this graph. In the last 50 years, we have like 12% increase in total cultivated land, but however, productivity and the extent of irrigated land has more than doubled. One of the problems that we face is that the water used for, then almost 50% of the water used for irrigation is wasted, because farmers don't really know how much water the plants really needs. And as you can see here, both under and over irrigation decrease yields and waste water. So we have to optimize irrigation to have higher yields. And the other problem is that most of our water is salty, unavailable to use for irrigation and human consumption. From the remaining, 70% is frozen. And of the other 30%, most lies underground. So we have less than 1% of fresh water for human consumption. From this amount, 70% of this water is already used in irrigation, while there are hundreds of millions of people without access for even fresh water for drinking. And although the water used in irrigation gets back to the soil, it doesn't rain in the same places, and the water doesn't get back to the same basins that it was collected. And okay, this is the actual scenario, but let's think bigger, let's think about the future, and then it comes the big question. How will we feed 9 billion people in 2050? So, to overcome this huge challenge, we will need to produce 70% more food, because we will not only have more people, but an increase in income will also demand will also have higher demand for food. And almost all of this increase in production will have to be related to an increase in productivity, using new technologies to improve efficiency. Less than 10% of the production will be related to newly cultivated areas. And also, we lose about 1/3 of the food we produce. So even if we can get higher production of food, if we don't invest in access and distribution, we will still have 307 million people suffering with hunger, which means 5% of the population of the developing countries. Another scarce resource in this scenario is land. 30% of our land is already degraded. And if we don't invest in recover, they are useless for food production. And recover these lands demands time and money, as Dr. Fletcher said before. Also, it's projected to have only a 5% increase in the total cultivated land by 2050. And last, 70% of our population will live in cities because new generations of farmers don't want to stay in rural areas. And I don't know about you, but every time I listen to the question, how will we feed 9 billion people in 2050, the first thing that comes to my mind is climate change. I think this is the huge challenge we will have to overcome in the next years, because every one increase in 1 degree Celsius increase in our global temperature, we lose about 2% in agricultural yield. Also, an increase in temperature speeds the life cycle of pests and disease, make them replicate faster and being more dangerous. And the fact is that we are already facing this problem. The productivity are already decreasing in some parts of the world. And another problem with climate change is that there will be a change in the geographical distribution of crops. Where it was not possible to seed before, now that it's warmer, it may be appropriate for farming. And super productive areas it starts to not be compatible with certain crops anymore. Climate change will also affect water availability. Higher temperatures increases demand for water for evapotranspiration by crops and natural vegetation. And this will will lead to a more rapid depletion of the soil moisture. And particularly affected will be areas in low latitudes where temperatures are already high. Also, climate change will affect every step of the water cycle, like, for example, the amount, distribution, and frequency of rainfalls. This is a picture taken 2 months ago on south of Brazil. And here you can see a pivot center that is an irrigation system, very usual in Brazil and other countries. And it works by spreading water on top of the crops. So this is not a lake. Under that water, there are hundreds of hectares of cultivated land, completely lost. And another fact is that if this farmer have ever thought that there was the minimum possibility that the rains would overflow due to a rainfall, he will never grow there, let alone buy an expensive irrigation system. So this scenario may lead to more frequently crop failures in the tropical regions of the planet in the future. Because and in these regions we have most of the developing countries, and in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And also most of the food and commodities produced worldwide comes from these regions. So climate change will also affect global economy. In Brazil, for example, most of our revenues comes from agricultural products exportation. If we're not able to overcome crop failures, poverty and hunger may increase there, and in other countries that relies on the food produced by us. And as long as climate change affects agriculture, agriculture also contributes to climate change, mainly from the conversion of forests into farmlands in the bad side, but in the good side, agriculture also contributes to soil carbon sequestration. And I think you might be a little bit overwhelmed right now with all this information and a little bit insecure of what is ahead of us. And I have to say that this is exactly how farmers feel, because they are pressured by the challenge of produce more food for the growing population while reducing greenhouse gas emissions and using fewer resources and being more sustainable. So how can farmers adapt to all of these changes and be able to make good decisions? We think that the answer is data, and that's what digital agriculture is bringing. To try to make you understand how important it is to collect the data in agriculture, I will get back to my grandfather. So, remember when I said that he was always complaining about the productivity? He is a low input farmer, so maybe climate change was already affecting him because he didn't invest so much in technology, irrigation, and biotechnology to overcome productivity losses. Here you can see him checking a manual rain gauge that is not a very accurate device, and he didn't store this data. So we can't be sure about how temperature and rainfall behaved all over the years at his farm. All we can do is to trust in his memory. And nowadays, agriculture has become a hot industry, demanding for new innovations to overcome all of these challenges. And lots of companies are working on Internet of Things, big data, machine learning to help to increase and improve agricultural yields. And they act in the most different types of areas, like, for example, new kinds of farming, smart irrigation, plant and animal data, farm management, precision agriculture, marketplaces, robotics, drones, sensors, and etc. And we are seeing farmers exchanging their notebooks to start using softwares like Aegro, that to help them in their stock management and finance of the farm, or using Strider for follow a route in the field and spot pest locations, and also using Caller with its smart collars that collect data from activity and behavior of each individual cow. This is just to name a few of them. They are all great companies. But we have to always care about the farmer. Farmers usually adapt to new technologies slower than people in the cities. And now with the boom of internet and the speed that the information comes from everywhere, they have access to data from sensors, satellite, and drone imaging inputs, software inputs, that they can get lost and don't really know how to use all of this information. So in a tropical scenario, we also have the situation that farmers lack on connectivity on their farms with poor cell phone or internet signal. So the first challenge is to bring connectivity to the farm. There is no use for high technology devices if the farmer is not able to even connect to the internet. And if we don't do that, they will never trust the solution. So what we have to do is to facilitate the understanding and educate the use of the data collected. This way, we have to turn data into actionable insights, because farmers want real-time access to their agronomic data. And as another example, we have AgroSmart. AgroSmart is a startup created by sons of farmers that grew up facing the challenges that their parents used to have in the farm. So they created a way to connect the farmer with his farm. And this way, the farmer can be able to spend some time with his family and have some vacations and without losing contact to his crops. And this way, we want to capture the potential of every hectare by increasing yields and reducing input waste, making every drop count to reduce the environmental footprint of farming, and also enable more solution-oriented interactions with growers by giving them data and analytics driving economic outcomes. Some of the results that we already achieved is up to 60% of water reduction, 40% on energy savings, up to 20% in yield increase, and also bring connectivity to the farm. This way, our customers have real-time access to the data collected from sensors for monitoring soil, crop, and weather conditions. And one of our customers gave us this testimony saying that our application was the first one that he was really able to use. And I know that this is a delicate subject. Some of you might think differently than me, so I propose us to discuss, and feel free to make questions. Thank you.